Hi and welcome back. This is our modal demonstration. This one is a little bit more complicated, or at least looks a little bit more complicated, but it's really not. We have on our main controller here, we have two buttons, show modal controller and show pages modally. So my modal controller class here, in my class name I have modal interface controller, which is modeled here, and then I have set the identifier to modal controller so that the name of this guy, when we present it, will be modal controller. I have also got 3 pages for a page-based modal interface here, page 1, page 2, page 3, but I'm just using the standard WK interface controller class here. If I select page 1, I see its identifier set to page 1, page 2 likewise, page 2, and page 3 is set to page 3. However, I have not set up separate classes here. I certainly could, but I wanted to show you that if you have only static information in a controller, you do not have to set up a class and model it in your class hierarchy here. So let's look at this guy. Of course, I've got 2 buttons, and they are wired up, set present modal and set present pages. So let's go ahead and look at our class here. Our interface controller, I have set up a variable here, or actually a constant called page names, which is an array, page 1, page 2, page 3. And I'm going to use this to modally present my page-based interface. So let's do that here. Button present pages presents controller with names, page names. This is an array. And then contexts, I can pass nil to context because these are flat, standard, raw WK interface controller classes for which I have no context. If I'm going to send a context to a controller, then I need to model it in software. I need to set up a class such as I've done here with Modal Interface Controller. Modal Interface Controller is presented using button present modal with present controller with name, and that will be model controller, which is what I identified it by in Interface Builder. And then context, I'm just passing a string, a single modal controller. Modal Interface Controller catches that. I have a label here. This is wired up to the label on that new controller. It is a interface label, explicitly unwrapped, and then I'm going to, in awake with context, pull that context, cast it as a string, set it up as label text, and then set the text in my label to label text. That's it. So let's go ahead and look at how this works. Again, if I've done everything right, it should work just fine. So let's go to the modal controller first. I can see it come up from the bottom. I didn't set a title, so this says cancel, and this says a single modal controller. Of course, this is trying to wrap the text and it can't. But if I click cancel, then I go back to my original list or my original interface. If I do show pages modally, I show all 3 controllers, but I'm going to show them one at a time. So this is page 1, and then I swipe. This is page 2. I can swipe back to 1. I can swipe all the way over to 3, depending on what the user wants to do. And even if I'm not on page 1, I can cancel, and that will dismiss that modal page-based interface. Thank you very much.